Hi, welcome to Business Influencers. My name is Chris Salem, your host. We hope that you found us here with ease here at TALRadio. And again, we hope that you're following us also on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. We encourage you to check us out also on my Facebook page at Christopher Salem, where we also track the show each and every week with many of our great guests sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help elevate your business influence, both on a personal and business perspective, to the next level. If you would like to hear any content that could help move you and your business to the next level in terms of influence, feel free to reach out to us at chris@christophersalem.com. That's chris@christophersalem.com. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, this is a membership program, meaning it takes all the noise out of social media. No more of those noisy notifications. You get to come in and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose and sharing the content that you wish to help build those relationships to a new level. If you're also looking for a new job, perhaps maybe a new partnership in a business, this is a great place to do that. And if you'd like to get some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today, and I'm really looking forward to this because I'm going to be taking notes myself. And we're going to be talking about turn your email list into a cash register. Now, I know a lot of times people might have email lists, but are they using it correctly? Well, if you are, great. And if you're not, which like probably a lot of people are not, you're going to learn from someone who has mastered it and teaches it to many coaches, consultants, and business owners. And we're here today with Marc Mawhinney. Marc is a lifelong entrepreneur who helps coaches get more clients without paid advertising. He achieves this with his coaching programs, his podcast, Natural Born Coaches, his Facebook group, The Coaching Jungle, which he has now amassed so many members alone in that group, and his exclusive hard copy newsletter, Secret Coach Club. He's been a speaker at events like Social Media Marketing World, frequently makes media appearances, and contributes for entrepreneur.com. And you can learn more about Marc, which he'll be sharing about his website more at the end as well at naturalborncoaches.com. And without further ado, Marc, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, yeah, let's talk about email lists. A lot of times, people have, maybe have an email list. Some can be small, some are in the middle. Some may have a lot of, people on their email list. But are a majority of them using it correctly?
No.
Yeah. And I was anticipating that, but
and just to get off my soapbox, I wasn't doing it correctly for my first 2 years of my coaching business. So, in a quick nutshell, what we're going to chat about today is daily emails, which I know give some people think, oh my gosh, he's nuts.
Yeah.
Everyone subscribe.
Are we going to burn our list? Are we going to burn our list?
They'll hate me. They'll come find out where I live. They'll, whatever. From 2014 to 2016, I did email just like everyone else, so I might have sent an email once a week or every 2 weeks, maybe sometimes it'd be twice a week. It wasn't consistent and they were boring as hell. They'd be great if someone was, you're traveling, you're not going to have any trouble falling asleep tonight, but if someone was having trouble falling asleep, they could have read my emails back then. And basically after 2 years, I was ready to give up on them because I was getting results from other stuff I was doing with my podcast and social medias. And so a guest on my podcast challenged me after we were recording our episode because he was really big on daily emails. And he said, why don't you try emailing daily for 1 month? And I thought, well, I have nothing to lose really other than a little bit of time. So I'll give it a month. And that was April 2016. I haven't missed a day. And I just checked actually earlier today, it's close to 3,000 days of consistent emails. So
wow.
If anyone needs any convincing, what's that saying? I hate when people say it. I tell you this not to impress you, but impress upon you. Yeah. I don't want to be those people, but my point is I wouldn't have done almost 3,000 straight days of emails if it wasn't working. So
let's talk about that. Now you have three, I mean, that's impressive. Like, so what would that look like in terms of is there a strategy or a method to the process with what you're putting out each day that is adding value and
Yeah.
creating impact and so on.
So I make an offer in every single email. Now I say an offer, it's an invitation, take the next step. Sometimes it could be a link to a podcast episode. Like you're coming on my show, Natural Born Coaches. That day it'll be check out Chris's interview going here. But for the most part, it's an actual revenue generating call to action. And I don't want to say that you just sell, because that doesn't work. But I do sell in every email. But you also have to give them a reward for spending, even if it's a minute or 2 minutes reading it. You don't want to waste their time. So my emails, I'll tell a story or an aha or a lesson, some piece of advice, something I think will help them. And then I transition over into a real soft call to action. I might say, oh, by the way, I go over this in greater detail in module 2 of my XYZ program. Check it out here. So it's not like the Home Shopping Network with, just hammering them over the head with it. But
yeah, buy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to follow. There's an iron imperative that Josh Bernoff, who wrote Writing Without Bullshit, had in that book. And the iron imperative is you treat your reader's time as more valuable than your own. So I asked myself, is this going to be worth their minute, 2, 3 minutes to open this? Because everyone's busy. They got a lot going on. And that means that you have to make them entertaining. So besides switching to a daily frequency back in 2016, the other thing that I did was I took the filter off, and I basically will, I not afraid of losing subscribers. I sometimes poke the bear, and just keep it interesting, entertaining, because no one wants to read a boring email.
Yeah, that's true. So it sounds like you said you interject some things that could be a story, but it's always something of value. It's, would it be safe to say that in those emails you're always touching on in some way what could be the challenge that they're having that could be better, and what could maybe be some of the results that you could have but you don't have currently?
Yeah, I think that would be fair. Generally speaking, it may modify slightly, but for the most part, I'm promoting something week by week. So week 1 of the week of the month, I'm promoting whatever. Week 2, something different. Week 3, and so on. And I'm not bouncing around different offers one day to the next. That would get a little bit disorienting and get a little confusing. So I could have joint venture partners one week that I'm promoting, or my group coaching program another week, or I may take a week to get people into the Coaching Jungle Facebook group. And then you're building that consistency every day. Same time of the day, it's hitting their inbox. And for the record, I haven't done this a lot, but I have done days with as many as 8 emails as my record, which that was a final day of a sale for an online program that's having. But it's not uncommon for me to do 2 or 3. It's usually 1 a day, but in reality, it's probably averaging 1.25 a day over the years if I look at it that way.
That's fantastic. And obviously I know, me being a coach, Mark, I do a lot of business acceleration. And for me, key performance indicators are a great way. That's how I track, measure. You always say the 4 pillars of success are foundation, preparation, execution, and measurement, and then repeat. In terms of email, do you feel like, what would be some of the things that you could share that, people, coaches, consultants, or any business owners or business professionals in general, that using email marketing as a way to, create value, what are the things they should be looking for to measure, to see what's working, what's not, or what has to be dropped or enhanced?
I mean, it's good to know your stats looking at metrics. I do think email marketers sometimes look at the wrong thing. At the end of the day, for me, it comes down to how much money am I making from the emails. And I know I sound like Gordon Gekko or J.R. Ewing when I say that. I don't, but at the end of the day, I would rather have, lower open rate, lower click-through rate, but be making more money. Like sometimes people.
The bottom line, that bottom line ROI.
Yeah, sometimes people they'll brag about their open rate. Oh yeah, I got so full disclosure, I'm at usually about 25% open rate, which is good for a list my size. But sometimes people, oh yeah, I have an open rate of 45%, blah blah blah. Okay, and I'll ask some questions. Well, their list is 100 people, and half of them are their family and their friends.
Oh yeah.
So I would hope you have an open rate, but how much money are you making from it? Now, on the other side of it, if you have an email list, some people are so worried about the size. I won't make a joke about size not mattering or whatever. I could go in different directions.
Yeah.
But I've seen people do very well with smaller lists, monetizing it. Let's say a list of 500 or 1,000 subscribers versus someone with a 10,000 person list, but maybe their offers aren't aligned. They don't keep in touch with them. They're not building that relationship. So the size of the list, yeah, if given the choice, I'd rather have a larger list. You have more chances to sell there, but list size isn't everything. So by emailing daily, you're going to call your list. I always say mine is a self-purging list because people will exit. They'll leave themselves. Even though I'm very clear when they join my list, say, hey, I email daily because I don't want them to be surprised. If I'm not their cup of tea, they're going to leave after getting enough of my daily emails. Yeah. But the people who stay in there, are serious, they're resonating with your message, and they have a much better chance of investing in your services that way. I had a client who bought a 40,000 person list. I'd recommend not buying lists. But she was shocked. She spent a lot of money on it, didn't make a single dollar because people didn't know who she was. It wasn't aligned with her, and just the disconnect there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like, and again, you've emphasized the importance of quality over quantity, in this case, and that alignment is always so important over just having the sake that you're throwing mud at a wall, in this case, with a lot of people that are getting the email. So what would you recommend, like if somebody's just like maybe used email marketing, but not enough, they're hearing now you sharing and wow, they're starting to get, think differently, what would you recommend they either restart or, maybe consider starting where, which will put them in a better position to move forward?
Well, if you have a cold list, and let's say you haven't spoken to them, emailed them in 6 months or a year, which I do see a lot, I'm trying to convince the person to get going again, and they're very nervous because, oh, you haven't emailed them in 6 months. And I've seen their first emails that they send out there. You'd swear that they killed the person's dog or cheated on the spouse with them or whatever. They're just so apologetic. And you can make a little joke like, if you haven't emailed them for 6 months or a year, hey, did you miss me? Haha, I know you haven't seen me for a while, but don't spend 4 paragraphs just groveling and begging for forgiveness. It's not the end of the world. You will see if it's a cold list that you haven't been keeping in touch with, and then you start hitting them daily, there's going to be a lot of unsubscribes, and you have to just be prepared for that. Don't let it freak you out because they haven't heard from you in a while. They may forgot that they're on your list and they're going to drop off, but then the number of unsubscribes will drop the percentage as it goes on. One big piece of advice I highly recommend is if your email service provider has a setting where you get emailed every time someone leaves your list, which a lot of them have set that way, turn that off because if you're getting an email every couple of days saying Chris, Marc Mawhinney unsubscribed from your list, and then there's usually a reason for unsubscribe, and some people might be like, yeah, you're a real jerk, go die or something like that. That's not going to put you in the best headspace. So that would be a big piece of advice. Turn off that note. I mean, you could, I don't pay any attention to unsubscribes because they probably weren't going to buy from me anyways. The other piece of advice I would give is this comes more with the creation of the emails, the writing. Don't sit down in front of a blank screen once a day to come up with something. You want to batch write. So I always want to have at least a week's worth of emails set and scheduled. At the moment right now, I'm up over a month. I'm at close to 5 weeks. And now something changes, a current event that I want to work in there. There's a zombie apocalypse, tomorrow or something. I can unschedule one and move another one in. But for the most part, mine are evergreen or it's not going to make as big of a difference. So that would be the other one, batch, right? You're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself if you're trying to just write one a day. Write a bunch of them at once and then schedule them.
That's great. And when you see with the daily email that you're doing, so you're dripping every day and sharing value, creating compact, you're providing an offer in each and every case. Some are very subtle, some can be sometimes direct. What do you find is on average when the conversion happens? Is it like 8 touches? Is it 20? Somewhere in between? Could it be a lot more? What would that look like if it's doing it the way you're doing it? And what, obviously people are going to want to learn how to do it better. And where, I'm hoping you'll be able to give them information and how to get in contact with you. What would that number be, that range, buyer's journey?
It's interesting because often I'll ask someone if they hire me to work with them as their coach or they enroll in a program, how did you hear about me? Because I'm always curious, right? Did they hear about me from the podcast? Was it emails? Was it somewhere else? And often it's my emails also go around to social media, by the way, and that's a whole other conversation we could have. But you're squeezing a lot of juice out of the orange. One email could turn into 8 pieces of content all over between Facebook, a few places, LinkedIn, Twitter, and so on. My blog. But it's interesting as people say, well, I read about it in your email, Mark, and then I also saw you talking about it in the Coaching Jungle Facebook group, and you mentioned it on your podcast, right? So you're touching them multiple ways there.
Multiple
And then,
platforms, yeah.
yeah. And then sometimes like someone just joined my 10K, I have a 10K month coach program. And I asked him how he found out about me and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I've been following your stuff for a couple of years now. I had no clue who he was. He never hit reply in any of the emails or anything. And so some people are ready to make a jump on day one or the first week. Other ones could be 5 years. You just never know where they're at in the journey. Overall, I will say, and I do this so expectations are kept reasonable. Play the long game, so assume it's going to take many touches with it. I'm a realistic optimist, I say. So I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic that I'm not telling people they're going to make $1 million this week daily with daily emails, because then when they don't, they get frustrated and they stop doing it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that was gonna lead. That was a question I was gonna ask, but I might as well bump it up now because because a lot of times people like to, to share the sizzle, right? They share the
yeah.
sizzle, but then in reality, or even their capability may not be able to fulfill it for whatever reason. They may not have the resources, enough people to actually fulfill it, but they positioned it up front. That's what, people were expecting. So it's always better to kind of, do you find like it's better to share again, where it's realistic, but yet connect it to what's their greatest pain point, the challenge, what are the results they seek they don't have, rather than just, sell the sizzle based on the features and benefits and all that.
Yeah, I think you have to sell the sizzle and the steak, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, you've seen this. You've been in the online space for a
Yeah.
long time. Too many coaches, marketers are great with the sizzle, but they're not good with the steak, And I've
Yes.
purchased programs before that I'm like, wow, this is brilliant marketing. I look behind the curtain, I get started, I'm like, wow, this is garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like,
That's
what,
fine.
wow, this is like what's going on? I know exactly what you're
It's
talking about.
night and day. But I also try to spin into a positive because it's made me a better coach, a better creator for those people, because I thought I don't want anyone to feel that way when they purchase my programs, or if I think, no, I don't like how he or she did this, but then how am I going to change it? Yeah, so you do have to do sizzle steak. I mean, it really starts with your subject line, because if the person doesn't open the email, they're not going to read the body, the text, and they're not going to see your link, your call to action there. So you need to have a good subject line. And I try to get something that piques their interest that they're going to click on. One of the guys I've learned a lot from with daily emails is Ben Settle. And I remember Ben, he has some funny subject lines. One of them, which he got heat on, was I think about you in the shower, was his subject line. A bunch of people were replying like, you creep, you pervert, or whatever. The whole point of the email, if they had read it, was he's talking, if I remember right, he was talking about thinking about the customer journey, customer needs, and things when he was in the shower. Everybody, it was not everyone. There's only a few
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
were fine. But that's a brilliant subject line. If I got an email saying, I think about you in the shower, I'm curious, hopefully it's a supermodel, she's single or whatever. But in this case, it was Ben. But anyways, yeah, so subject line, put some care into it. Me personally, I find subject lines that are like the typical, like if you're a health coach, 3 tips to a flatter stomach in 90 days, or, 2 foods you could cook in under 5 minutes. I mean, it could be great. I get it in some ways for blog posts or maybe for webinar stuff like that. But for an email, I'd go with something a little punchier.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I love that. Love that. So in terms of the offer, Mark, when you talked about like a daily offer, it could be something like, it could be either an invitation to listen to your podcast, be a guest, to write to either an online program or joining the Facebook group or whatever. Is there something also, do you believe in connecting the dots? Like if they did click on that and they did interact and entertain, maybe doing something with that, do you continue to kind of work on them in that area, or is it, like, you send them a completely different offer at that point?
No, I mean, there probably are people out there that'll segment lists and they
Yeah.
would put them into some other really fancy. My funnel is very basic. First off, I use Aweber, and Aweber I've been using for 10 years. It's not Infusionsoft or any of the real fancy ones, but that's why I like it. It's easy to write the emails, and if it's not easy, whichever email provider you're using, you're not going to feel like going in there and using it because it's going to be too confusing. I
Yeah.
use Aweber, and just very simple. I'm not the real fancy funnels with 15 different customer paths or prospect paths, upsells, downsells, diagonal sells, and all this other stuff. So mine is trying to get them from point A to point B as soon as possible. One thing that's not just on this topic, not a bad idea to do though, is sometimes your call to action could be hit reply and tell me what your biggest challenge is or
Yeah.
whatever. How would you answer this question? And the advantage there is it gets conversations going, but also it helps with your email deliverability because their service provider will see that, oh, they're conversing with Chris, they're answering his email, must be safe. And it's not going to go into the spam or the promotions folder there as well.
Wow, that's great. Great information here. And we hope you listeners out there are taking notes. We highly encourage you to share this show with your colleagues, peers, other business associates. There's golden information here. And if done right, so many things you can do. So in terms of marketing, Mark, if we're looking at a solopreneur, maybe a small business, or even now in this case, even if it's a good sized company, let's just say if it's 400 people, 500 people, or something like that. Is there anything, different among those three? Or is it, again, the only thing difference is you got a bigger company, different size, and different product offerings?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was speaking with a real estate agent the other day, and she said, "Oh, well, I can't do daily emails with what I'm doing because it would piss people off or whatever." And I said, "Well, that's not necessarily the case. I think daily emails can work if people want to hear from you, they're entertaining, they're informative, then they're going to want to hear from you every day." So there's certain ways you could do it. If it's a visual medium like real estate, for example, where people are doing video house tours or drone videos going around property, stuff like that, some of your emails might be something simple like, "Hey, I just listed a great new property, at 123 Main Street. It's got a really cool backyard. Check out the drone footage and the video tour of it." And then it's just a link to your YouTube or whatever. So there's different ways that you can mix and match with emails. Mine tend to be very text heavy. But if you don't like writing, it could be something as simple as, "Hey, I went live in my Facebook group yesterday to share ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Here's the link to check it out." The advantage with doing the example I just mentioned there is you're growing your Facebook group. You're using your email list to grow your Facebook group. So
Yeah.
you've got different options, but I'd encourage you to banish a little voice from your head if it's saying, "Well, this isn't going to work in my industry or my niche." I've seen daily emails work across the board.
Yeah. Well, that's fabulous news. What you just shared. Any other insights that you feel, when it comes to email marketing? Is there like a certain, I know you do it daily and you believe that, daily has worked very effectively for you, effectively for a lot of the people you've worked with in this particular area. Is there, like, beyond the daily, is there a certain time period that you start to see typically the best results, like maybe after 3 months, that type of thing?
For me personally, and what I've seen with clients too, I think it takes about a month to start to notice some things. I hope it happens for you sooner. It'd be nice in 3 or 4 days. But with mine, I noticed it was that after that first month that it started to get going.
Got it.
Others might be a little bit sooner. If you're emailing daily for a year and there's no results, there's something going on there. We'd have to look under the hood to see because you've sent out at least 365 emails times however many subscribers. A monkey should be able to get business from that. So something's going on there. But yeah, about a month would be a good measuring stick.
Got it. Great. Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of always the measurement, and so too. In terms of now, when it comes to all the tools and resources we have in our fingertips these days, ChatGPT being one of them, what is your perspective and input on using those tools and resources to create more compelling content through your emails?
This is probably blasphemy for a lot of podcasts. I'm not a big AI guy at the moment for creating content. It could be good. I've played around a bit to get some ideas, punch it in. I think too many entrepreneurs are looking at it as being the savior, where they say, "Oh, this is great. It's going to create all my content." And I've seen it with my Facebook group. I could tell when a post goes up where it's AI generated. You could just tell, right?
Yeah.
The
It's got kind of that kind of flow to it. The words may be different, but it's still like the paragraphs. Yeah. And it's got sometimes
it's
those
a
trigger
difference
words.
between if you're married to someone and she's sweet talking you versus a stripper talking to you, and she's just trying to get the money from you. She's not feeling love. Your wife's feeling the love, hopefully, but the stripper's not. That's how I view it. Not that I would know anything about strippers, just saying. Yeah.
Well, this is great what you're sharing here. Well, I know we're getting near the end of the show, and I wanted to see if you would like to any other comments that we have not discussed, in with this segment. Anything that you feel that the audience and those listening later should definitely know as to really drive home what you shared with us today.
Yeah, I'd like to leave one more tip, Chris, because this has worked really well, and it comes to growing your Facebook group. So my email list has been great for growing the community. We've got about 25,000 people in the coaching jungle. And a big reason why is what I recommend doing, the autoresponder for your email. That's the first email people get. Once they opt into your list, usually you're giving them a free resource, right? A lead magnet. It'd be, "Hey, Chris, thanks for opting in. Glad to have you here. Here's the link to download your XYZ report that I promised you." I put in the PS in that first email is, by the way, I have a Facebook group called the Coaching Jungle with about 25,000 coaches sharing great stuff in there every day. We'd love to have you. Here's the link, thecoachingjungle.com. And I notice that it's like an ecosystem where the email list grows a Facebook group. And then the Facebook group I use to grow the email list, because you have your membership questions when people in the group. One of the questions asks if they want daily email advice from me to help them grow their business. So they're great for growing each other. So don't sleep on that. Definitely use your email list to grow your community and vice versa.
Wow, that's powerful. I hope everybody has taken notes. We highly encourage you to listen to the show in its entirety. Some golden nuggets. And Marc is going to be on another show in the future. We'll make sure that we will let everybody know either if it's a continuation or many other topics that he talks about and helping you as a coach to help scale your business. In this case, as he calls it, natural born coaches. So Marc, if you could, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us here with TALRadio and the Business Influencer Show. I want to thank you again for everybody on the behalf of TALRadio and myself.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Chris. This was fun.
Great. Can you share with the audience a little bit about, again, where is the best place to connect with you? Anything that you got coming up, and anything you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the central HQ would be naturalborncoaches.com. And you could opt into my list. You get a free gift. It's an issue of my Secret Coach Club newsletter. So it's about $100 value just for joining the list. I don't think anyone will be surprised getting daily emails from me after you opt in. Please don't complain. You've been warned, but at least opt in, get that resource. And then you can also see the emails I write. And then the Coaching Jungle group, we always want great people in there. So that's at thecoachingjungle.com.
Wow. And we'll make sure that all that information will be here in the show notes, so that way you have easy access to reach out to Marc. Again, get involved with his Facebook group, get involved with him directly. And again, Marc, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And thank you, audience, for joining us each and every week here at Business Influencers. Again, we are committed to your success and raising your level of personal and business influence to the next level. Till then, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Take care.